I'll act when a chance opens up. Aints was furrowing his illusionary brow as the conversation continued. I see, but I am not very well versed in such matters. I don't want to make you take forever to explain it to me either. So I'll just listen to your discussion from the sideline and ask questions if I have them. Understood. Well then, gentlemen, any questions? Whereabouts in the environs? About 3 hours walking from the city's north gate. I believe you were familiar with the forest out that way. It was in there. What plates were they? Iron. Can I ask something? Why did you gather so many adventurers about a vampire? Are we supposed to be bidding for the job? My thoughts exactly. A platinum plate should be able to handle a vampire. I don't understand why you've gathered so many mithril rank adventurers here. It is simple. The vampire is strong. Rakishia chimed in and was bombarded with doubtful looks. A strong vampire. An elite vampire? You mean like the infamous vampire lord Nation Breaker who appeared in the sagas of the 13 heroes? It is unclear if it is that vampire lord or not, but it used the tier 3 spell Animate Dead when those adventurers encountered it. I trust I don't need to explain the significance of that to adventurers such as yourselves. There were no words. The tense faces spoke volumes. I don't really get it. Can you tell me what you mean? Yes, please excuse us, Mayor. To estimate simply, you could think of someone who can use that level of magic as platinum rank. Panasoli nearly grasped what they were saying. He knit his brow. In other words, no, that's enough of that. The look in Panasoli's eyes turned sharp. This small change made a huge difference in the vibes he gave off. His expression had gone from dull-witted to ferocious. No, this must have been Panasoli's real face. In other words, what the head of the Wizards Guild is trying to say is that a monster with platinum rank skills is equal to a team of platinum rank adventurers. Yes, it is as you suggest. Is it okay if I think of it as just more strong? I think that is fine. In army terms, how strong would it be? Against an army, that is a tough question. Rakishia racked his brain and then began to speak again. Allow me to first note this is just a rough idea. I can say for sure that it is accurate. Thinking of an army, undead don't get tired and don't require food or drink, so yes, if I had to take a stab at it, I'd guess about 10,000 men. What? The reality shocked Panasoli. It showed on his face. He scanned the adventurers to seek their opinions. Apart from Aints, everyone was nodding in agreement with the guild master's opinion. Theo, I'll take it from here. Ainzak began to speak, taking the baton from Rakishia. A country's ratio of adventurers who are platinum rank or above is thought to be about 20%. There are around 3,000 adventurers in the kingdom, so in the entire kingdom of over 8 million people, the number of platinum-ranked adventurers or higher is only 600. Do you understand? That is how few there are. I see. I didn't want to understand, but I do now. Then I want to ask you adventurers, as a follow-up, are you confident you can subdue this monster? If it is impossible, what about asking Gaze of Stronov for help? Gaze of Stronov was the kingdom's strongest warrior. He was said to be more powerful than an adamantite rank adventurer. It was probably right to call him the kingdom's last resort, but Ainzak promptly dismissed the idea of going to him. It is true there are no warriors who can defeat Sir Stronov, but if he fought a team of adventurers, though they be inferior in strength, they would definitely still win. An adventurer team has a myriad of options they can play. Compared to Sir Stronov, they have about 4 times the number of spells and martial arts to work with. This gap would, frankly, be quite large when facing a monster possessing special abilities. The best plan would be to gather adamantite or orichalcum rank adventurers, and until we can do that, we could gather this city's strongest adventurers to build a security net around the city to prevent incursions. Isn't that an overly defensive posture? Assuming the worst scenario, that seems like the best plan. Our opponent is single-handedly equivalent to an army. The terror of having a power equivalent to an army pop up in any random place, I don't even want to imagine it. A 10,000-strong army would be easier to find due to evidence of their march. Furthermore, a protracted campaign would be difficult for them because they would need a vast amount of food to maintain themselves. But how would it be for an individual adept at stealth and magic, including invisibility? But Guildmaster, if I may give my perspective on your idea, as an adventurer, I don't think it would be very easy to create a security net. Coordinating our movements would take time and training. Even if we don't go as far as that, what about coming up with a joint operation plan, gentlemen? The adventurers immediately opposed the mayor's idea. It can be done. In order to coordinate ourselves, we need a minutely detailed plan. And the more detailed the plan gets, the easier it will fall apart in the event of something unexpected. If it came to that, I'd rather fight without cooperating. Why is that vampire around here in the first place? What have the guilds found out so far? Due to the immense strength of the vampire, the guilds haven't been able to closely investigate either. Right as we were forming an investigation team, the vampire incident from last night occurred without warning. We had to send them over there on short notice. I see, and you worried the two incidents might be related. Indeed, Momon resolved that graveyard incident, right? Is there anything about the ringleader's body or belongings that suggests a connection? There was a slight silence after that question. Thought Aints. The guildmaster hadn't had any trouble answering so far, but now he glanced at the mayor questioningly. But when he thought about it, these were people who had been committing an act of terrorism on the city. There must have been information that was okay to share with adventurers, along with information that was not. From the items left behind, we determined it was Zaranorn. The three adventurers' faces became sober. Meanwhile, Aints was hearing the word for the first time, and prayed to a god he didn't believe in that nobody would address this unknown topic to him. Ignorance is seriously scary. I have to hurry up on gathering intelligence. That secret society that uses undead, so there could be a connection to the vampire, Maybe they were aiming to split our forces by causing trouble both inside and outside the city at the same time, or it could be that both of them were feints, and they were currently working on their real objective. That would be the worst. For now, we need reconnaissance. We know from the ranger that there were caves near where the vampire was identified. Rumor says there is a bandit hideout. There would the vampire still even be there? The chance it moved is higher, but I guess the chance is greater than zero. First, we should have people go to the adventurer who was talking stopped short. Of course he did. Investigating the place the vampire was last seen was the same as ordering people to leap into danger. And if they met the vampire, and it had the combat ability they estimated, it meant certain death. What he had just said was basically a roundabout way of saying, get out there and die. Let us leave that for later. We should probably consider the city's security first. At this very moment, the vampire might already be inside. Yeah, it would be easy to get in using magic. It's not like the capital of the Empire, where they have aerial cavalry and casters on patrol. Using fly, it was possible to invade the city from above. And using invisibility, one could walk straight in. That's just how tricky magic was. The obvious first moves were to concentrate their military strength and fortify their guard. But if we can get information, it will be difficult to handle. First, we should investigate the caves. The room's opinion began to gravitate toward that extremely natural suggestion. To Aints, that was worrisome. It would be extremely bad for Sholtia's current form to be seen. It wasn't clear where things would go, but having her current appearance known by the city, or possibly even throughout the kingdom, would be a burden on future, behind-the-scenes maneuvers. He desperately racked his brain for some way to steer the conversation. In the end, there was only one way to keep Sholtia's appearance a secret. Aints swallowed, even though his mouth didn't even produce spit, and began to speak. First, you're mistaken about one thing, that vampire is not connected to Zaranorn. Why do you say that, Momon? Do you know something? I know that vampire well because I chased it all the way here. What? The atmosphere in the room was greatly shaken. Aints spun his mental gears at high speed. This was it. They are extremely powerful. Actually, the reason I became an adventurer was to gather more information about them. Ainzak bit on the information Aints had purposely dropped. Them? You said them, right? Yes, there are two vampires. One is a woman with platinum hair named. He was suddenly at a loss for words. He'd been about to say Camilla, but it seemed too click D for a female vampire name. It seemed like it would give him away if any players were nearby. He wasn't sure what to call her when a flash of inspiration struck. He said, Honiopniot, someone didn't understand. Not just one person, but pretty much everyone. Honiopnioko. Even Aints felt what he just said strayed from the original, but if anyone asked, he would make them believe his tongue had gotten twisted. Honiopnioko. He stuck ko at the end of a feminine vampire's name without thinking. Didn't he think any Yggdrasil players would catch on to him from that alone? Confident in his flawless explanation, he smiled proudly under his helmet. Is that so? If you know this Honiarg, this woman vampire's name, are you about ready to reveal your true identity to us? What country are you from? Unfortunately, I can say, this is a top secret mission. If you were to find out my true identity, I'd be forced to take my leave of this place. I'd like it if you could deal with the vampire by yourselves, without involving my country. I don't want this to cause a diplomatic incident. I am sure you can understand, Mayor. The mayor nodded slowly. Ainzak watched, biting his lip while he stared at Ainz with keen eyes. The gaze of the guildmaster didn't bother him, but he wondered how far they believed his story. Were there any inconsistencies? Those two worries crowded his mind, but Ainz spoke again to clear them away. He spoke with a little bit of anger. He wasn't going to let anyone get in his way and said, my team will perform reconnaissance. If the vampire is there, we'll destroy it. That's what the dark warrior who had shown up late declared. His confidence and determination could be keenly felt, even if his face was hidden. The atmosphere was under some pressure, as if things had been shaken up, and someone gasped. Everyone felt almost as if it had been their own voice. Then what about the other? Unnecessary. I don't need anyone slowing me down, he interrupted, waving a hand that said they'd be in the way. He had spat the cruel words in an arrogant tone. That wasn't how one should conduct oneself in a room of similarly ranked adventurers. But the men there, who had made it through many life or death battles, sensed his remarks weren't born of insolence, narcissism, or conceit. They were born of realistic calculation. They also sensed he had the power to say them. This man was beyond the realm of normal humans. It was as if the raven black armor had expanded before their eyes. The oppressive atmosphere was palpable. The room seemed to have gotten smaller. They sensed from this man that he was similar to people they had met, people they felt they could never catch up to, like an adamantite-plate adventurer. He was a man who could be called a hero. Ainzak clammed up and just breathed a few times. Everyone there did the same thing. The atmosphere was heavy enough that the mayor was loosening his collar as he sweat. Ainzak asked in a near whisper, and for compensation. We can discuss that later. But I'd like your promise. If I take care of this, if I find and destroy this vampire, you'll make me at least orichalcum. That will make it easier for me to travel in search of the second one. It's a pain to have to prove my strength over again each time. Everyone in the room thought that made sense. Adventurers didn't serve the city or country, but currently in this city, there was no one with the rank of orichalcum. If he became the strongest adventurer in town, his reputation would become known to everyone. Not only that, but due to the rarity of orichalcum adventurers, his name would travel far. He would also get requested by name for more dangerous jobs, and the chance that he would acquire information about this immensely powerful vampire was high. But there was one man who couldn't accept it emotionally, even if his rationality might have allowed him to do so. A chair clattered. When everyone looked, it was, perhaps as expected, the one who had been picking on Ainz since before Igvaj. I'm not convinced of your power. In the first place, we don't even know if that vampire is strong. The magic to use a zombie could have come from an item. We're going with you. He'd been able to move despite being overawed because of his dislike of and hostility toward Ainz. He also didn't want to let Ainz get away with this. Perhaps feeling uncomfortable that a fellow adventurer would act like that, Belot spoke up in a bristling tone. Igvaj, your attitude is whatever, that's fine. Ainz granted him permission in an easygoing way. However, his action didn't stem from friendship. The next words he spoke were exceedingly cold-blooded. But if you come, you'll definitely die, you know. I don't know if the whole party will be wiped out or not, but he said it extremely matter-of-factly. He was making neither a threat nor a joke. Igvaj shuddered at the tone that implied it was just the fate that awaited him. No, it wasn't only Igvaj. Everyone in the room was chilled to the bone. Ainz shrugged casually. I warned you. If you want to come despite that, then come. Why, you bet we will. He was putting up a brave front, but he couldn't back down here. There was no way he could back down. He couldn't bring any more shame on himself in front of adventurers of his same rank and these city authorities. As the sparks flew between Ainz and Igvaj, Ainzak had gotten a hold of himself and now asked, It's great that you're confident, but do you have any basis for it? Of course, we understand how strong you are, but we need you to understand that considering the vampire's strength, this job is no walk in the park. I am not sure if we can really leave it all up to you. We do need a plan for in case you were defeated too, just in case. Aints promptly replied, I have a trump card, and that is... In response to Ainzak's interest, Aints pulled a crystal out of his breast pocket. Is that? No, it can't be, Rakashia suddenly shouted. He continued, gasping, I read about them in a rare book. These were magic items containing immensely powerful magic, considered supreme treasures, and among them magic sealing crystals. Why do you have such a rare item? I tip my hat to you, Ray. Correct. The crystal contains a tier 8 spell. What? Rakashia screamed. Even a strangled chicken wouldn't have made such a strange noise. His expression was frighteningly warped. Rakashia wasn't the only one surprised. Everyone else's faces, except the mayor's, were frozen in shock and awe. Anyone with a little adventuring experience would understand what Aints had said, as well as the value of that item. Tier 8, isn't that just made up? It might be a fairy tale, but I wonder, a realm of magic that hides truly mythic. Nonsense, it has to be a lie. The three adventurers, Igvaj included, stared at the crystal resting on the raven-black gauntlet, or on their faces. Sorry, but let me borrow it for a moment. Why, I am just interested in it as a caster. I swear I won't do anything. If you want some type of guarantee, I'll turn over everything I have on me right now. Like this belt. Aints looked at Rakashia with mild disgust. The man had stopped talking mid-sentence and was fiddling with his belt impatiently to take it off. Okay, you don't need to take it that far. Here, go ahead. Can I touch it too? Me too. The sealing crystal was passed from hand to Rakashia. When he finally got to touch it, he just stared, entranced like a woman who received the precious stone she coveted, or a young boy obtaining something he'd been hoping for. Marvelous, by the way, Sir Momon. Do you mind if I cast magic on it? After receiving permission, his heart throbbing, he cast some spells. Appraise magic item, detect enchantment, and then his face slowly warped. Amazing. The aura of a capable adult he'd carried was gone. His eyes were filled with pure, innocent surprise, and his tone of voice changed. It was as if his childhood self had returned. It's true, there is tier 8 magic sealed within this crystal. That's all I can tell with the spells I know, but wow, this is amazing. He screamed over and over as if he'd lost his mind, stunning everyone. Then he began holding it aloft, licking it, and rubbing it against his cheeks, exactly the type of things an insane person would do. Calm down, what are you doing? Startled by this display of craziness he'd never seen from his friend before, Ainzak stood up and approached Rakashia. Everyone was looking on with shock and disgust in their eyes. This was horrible behavior for a man who held an important position in the city. Don't be ridiculous. Who could be calm in this situation? This is amazing. There is actually tier 8 magic sealed in here. I don't know what spell, but still. His excitement unabated, Rakashia stared at the crystal with twinkling eyes. Then his gaze regained a touch of reason, and he asked Ain't Sir Momon, where did you discover this item? You must tell me. I found it in some ruins. It was with a bunch of other items. Of course, the magic was already sealed inside. I had a great caster analyze it for me. I see. And where were these ruins located? It was a very far away place. That's all I can say. At the reply, Rakashia bit his lip. He thought it was a shame. Now then, are you about ready to give it back? Oh yes, Rakashia glanced around and then reluctantly handed the crystal back to Aints. Then, watching Aints, who had begun wiping down the crystal with a sheet of vellum, he stated emphatically, by the way, I am against you going out to exterminate the vampire, Sir Momon. An exhausted silence filled the air and Ainzak put a palm over his face. Pained, Ainzak nonetheless asked, why all of a sudden? I know even without asking, but tell me anyways. Well, it'd just be such a huge waste. Ainzak decided that his friend had gone completely insane and ignored his opinion. Well then, we will disregard Rakashia's views on the matter. Wait, tier 8 magic is truly the divine realm. You mean to say you would be fine using something so precious on a vampire? Flames wavered in Ainzak's eyes. He couldn't allow further outbursts. It wasn't the way someone in a superior position should act. He quelled his anger and spoke to Rakashia in a low voice. Sorry, Rakashia, but please leave it at that. Those powerfully emotional words were enough to bring even Rakashia back to reason. He was at a loss for words. The faint redness of his face meant he was embarrassed by his behavior. After confirming out of the corner of his eye that common sense had returned to his friend, Ainzak made the request in as mild a way as possible. "Well then, Momon, we ray counting on you." As he bowed, Ainz nodded confidently. "Understood." Then he turned the slit in his helmet to Igvaj. "We ray leaving as soon as possible. Vampires receive a movement impeding penalty in daylight." Penalty.